The fear of death is the most natural fear. And if this fear is confronted and understood, it has the potential to change the very quality of your life. Hello everyone, I'm Rahul and today I'm going to talk about the fear of death. You know, the fear of death is the most primal existential dread that we all will go through at some point in life. So even if you're not scared of death right now, there are high chances that at some point in future you're bound to encounter it. And it comes like a shock. Any small instance in your life can trigger this fear. It could be losing your loved one. It could be losing the job that you really like. It could be anything. It could be a trivial thing. It could be a very, very major thing. And once you are under the grip of fear, you lose all the meaning and purpose in your life. You stop deriving any sort of pleasure from life. There is this constant gloominess that never goes away. And no matter how hard you try to avoid it, it just grips you. So first of all, I want to tell you this thing, that if you are someone who's going through this fear right now, it's perfectly normal to have this fear. I'm saying you this thing because we live in a society which is death avoidant in nature. And today the world cannot be divided into East and West. Today for the very first time the world has become global, and it is the global trend. The trend is that nobody wants to talk about death. The moment you will get curious on this topic, you would want to explore it, you would want to talk about it, immediately people will ask you to shut up. They will tell you that you should not talk about such pessimistic things. And the more you're going to repeat this thing, they will have this idea that maybe you're going through a depression. You should see a psychiatrist or a counselor. And this makes you believe that maybe something is wrong with me. So do not doubt yourself. It's perfectly normal to fear death. It's perfectly normal to be curious about death. Until and unless you do not have a clinical depression case, you do not have some history of anxiety or depression, you need not worry about it. The fear of death is the most natural fear. And if this fear is confronted and understood, it has the potential to change the very quality of your life. And that's what I want you to do. Change the very quality of your life by confronting this fear. Now let's try to understand how one should confront this fear. First of all, you need to get to the very root of the problem. Just ask yourself that why is it that I'm scared of death? Take a piece of paper and pen and write it down. Be as precise as you can. And upon close examination, you will find that there are primarily two reasons of fearing death. The first is the fear of coming to an end, both in physiological and psychological terms. The second fear is the fear of not living, feeling as if we are hurtling towards death. This second fear is the fear that a lot of people in their midlife crisis go through. So one by one, we will explore both these fears, we will examine both these fears, and we will find the solution. So pay close attention to it. Now let's try to understand the first fear, the fear of coming to an end. You know, our basic instinct in life is to survive. And this is the way nature has designed us. So this body seeks continuity in time, and this mind also seeks continuity in time. At the same time, we have the tremendous capacity to imagine things. And we can imagine things that are in conflict with our basic instinct to survive. We can imagine discontinuity of me, the psychological sense of me. We can imagine the physical body coming to an end, the death. And the moment we imagine such things, there is this fear in our body, in our mind. We are so much full of these stress chemicals in that moment, we do not know what to do with our life. It is very, very torturous. Most of the times when we are in such a vulnerable space, we do not get rid of it. We do not transcend it. On the contrary, we fall for some religious fictions. Anything that gives us a false hope of continuity, a feeling that something of us will survive after physical death. And that's where we start believing in this fiction of reincarnation, the philosophy of reincarnation, or the heaven, hell, or people talking about near-death experiences. And I'm not doubting anybody's experience. I'm just saying that it is a very subjective experience, a personal subjective experience. You will only encounter death in the moment when it will happen. You cannot imagine death. Death is unknown, and you should not be fearful of it. You should just trust life. You know, sometimes the most insightful things do not come from the saint and the sages, they come from the artists and the poets and the writers. And one such great insight about death has come from Mark Twain. Pay close attention to it. Mark Twain has said that I do not fear death. I had been dead for billions and billions of years before I was born, and had not suffered the slightest inconvenience from it. Now, this is how you overcome the fear of death. You do not overcome it by believing in some sort of a religious fiction that promises you a continuity. You overcome this fear by trusting the process of life. Mark Twain is trusting the process of life. He's saying that I was okay when I was not here. I am okay while I am here. And I will be okay when I won't be here anymore. This is the unconditional trust in life which will make sure that you do not fear death. So every day when you wake up in the morning, make this your prayer. Just repeat this thing to yourself, that I do not fear death. I had been dead for billions and billions of years before I was born, and had not suffered a slightest of inconvenience from it. And this is not something that happens in time, the linear time. This change, this transformation, this transcendence of fear can happen right now while listening to me. If you are willing to put your total attention, if you can understand this thing with totality, that I was okay when I was not here, I am okay while I am here, and I will be okay when I won't be here anymore. If you can just understand this thing, then there is no need to fear death. And this is what I want you to do. The second thing is coming to the fear of not living. Now, this is a fear that a lot of people in their 40s and 50s go through. This is the source of classic midlife crisis. And you will find that a lot of successful people suffer from it. They have done everything according to the blueprint of the society. They got educated. They got a good job. They saved money. They started a family. They traveled around the world. They have done everything that they desired for. And now suddenly they realize that it is not very satisfying. Suddenly they realize that they have wasted their life in chasing these artificial values of society, and they are hurtling towards death. Now, in this context, I just want to tell you that your fear of death is not logical. Most people, when they are going through the midlife crisis, they feel as if death is around the corner. It's not the case. A 10-year-old child can die tomorrow, and a 70-year-old man can live up until 100. So, we do not know anything about death. Death is unpredictable, so don't worry about it. The only thing that is certain is this moment. We do not even know whether we are going to be alive next moment. There are millions and millions of possibilities that can come up and make sure that this life ends. You can suffer a heart attack, an earthquake can come. So right now, the only certainty is this moment. And if you can live this moment with tremendous involvement, then you can get rid of all the fear. If you can live this moment with totality, you will feel extremely alive. And in that aliveness, there is no fear of death. You know, Rabindranath Tagore has said something very beautiful about time. He has said, "The butterfly counts not months, but moments, and has time enough." This is how a life should be lived. You should not count the months, you should count the moments. Each moment, live with tremendous involvement, with totality. And that totality will make you feel alive. And in that aliveness, there is no shadow of fear. You know, we all have certain limitations in life. We do not have the resources to live a very enjoyable life or a comfortable life. But with whatever limitations we have got, if we can live this moment with totality, then there will be sheer joy in it. There will be an aliveness in it. So maybe you cannot go to a fancy restaurant to have your dinner, but you can cook at your home. And that too with tremendous joy. You can rejoice each bite of that food. That will make you feel alive. That's what you need to do. Maybe you cannot go for a skydiving, but you can go for a morning walk and feel the breeze on your face. That will make you feel alive. Maybe you cannot go to an exotic location to see a sunset, but you can look at the sunset out of your window. Even if you live in a very crowded city, if you cannot enjoy the sunset here, do you think that going to an exotic location will make you capable of enjoying the sunset? Enjoying the sunset, feeling alive, is an intrinsic thing. It's not an extrinsic thing. So focus on developing your interiority. Become sensitive. Live this moment with totality. Remember, living is like light, and the fear of dying is like darkness. And these things cannot coexist. Neither can light and darkness coexist, neither can living and the fear of dying can coexist. So when you live, the light is there and the darkness disappears.